going to end at just a random moment, and it'll surprise you, because it just stops. Sorry. It might stop at 20 minutes because I run out of time, or it might just stop before then because I run out of slides. All right, I already got a question before I even started my talk, which is, what do you mean by theory of mind? And so I'm just going to quote the Wikipedia definition, because that's all I mean right now. I just mean the ability to attribute mental states, beliefs, intents, desires, pending knowledge, to oneself and others, and to understand that others have beliefs, desires, intentions, and perspectives that are different from one's own. So we seem to have this ability, we seem to consciously relate about this ability, and sometimes it feels like maybe our AI doesn't have this ability. And so maybe an interesting question is, how might we get there, and how would we demonstrate it when we have it? And so that gives you the back half of my talk title. Can a game demonstrate theory of mind? We know what theory of mind is. So can a game do it? This is the game I want to tell you about. And really this whole talk is an excuse so you learn how to play this game. And maybe I won't say anything else. So I'm going to teach you how to play the game Hanabi. Because, yeah. All right, here we go. How does this game work? How many people know how to count? Woo! And if you didn't raise your hand, I only mean to 5. Or you could put up your hand. Okay, so this is the way the game works, is we're going to count to 5. Like we're going to go 1, 2. See, we can count to 5, but we don't have to count. There's actually more than one color in this game. That's the red color. We can also count to 5 in other colors, and we can do it in any order. So we counted to 2 in red, and now we can say, okay, green 1. That's the next number in green, and that's the next number in blue. And I can keep doing this, and I can go back to red as long as I count the next number. So this is the goal of the game is I want to count only to 5, but I need to do it in 5 colors. But I can do it in any order I want to, right? I can keep counting in any order I want to, and I can keep doing this, and then maybe at some point, like, I try to, like, count wrong, right? 3 isn't the number of the counting here, right? I need to play a 2, so that's bad, and I get a strike against me. We have done something horribly wrong. We have failed to count, and so that's a strike. Okay, so I want to count in colors. I'm going to play cards to be counting in the 5 colors. I can do it in any order I want to, as long as I play it in order. And I can actually have up to 3 strikes, and 3 strikes and you're out, and the game is over. So your goal is to count all the way up in all the 5 colors to 5. But yeah, so if you don't get 3 strikes, then you're hoping to just keep playing all the cards, like in whatever order you want to, until you get 5s in every pile, and then you've won, right? Woo! Okay. So that's the goal of Hanabi, but that would be stupid. So the game works slightly differently than this. You are trying to count to 5 in all 5 colors. Well, the way the game works is you're going to be dealt out some cards. You're actually going to play with a bunch of other people, and all the people you're playing with are on the same team. Together, you need to collectively count to 5. But the way this game is going to work is here there are 4 people playing. Each of these little stacks of cards is a different player, so there's 4 people playing. And the weird thing is, this is your hand. The one you don't see. So if you're doing this physically, you'd actually hold your cards so that everybody else can see them, and you can't. Okay, so that's why you get to see everybody else's cards, and you don't get to see your own. And each of these other players, they're getting to see everybody else's cards, but their own. Okay, does that make sense so far? So we're going to take this deck of cards that have 5 colors, 5 numbers, deal them all out. We have some cards. So what can you do? We're going to take turns, and on your turn, one of the things you can do is you can pick one of your cards and play it. Right? You're just going to like flip it over and count with it. But right, that didn't work. Right? That's not the next card in blue. We don't have any blue cards out there, so what should be the next blue card? 1. That wasn't the 1, so that's a strike against us. That's probably not a good move to do at the beginning of this game, say?
But you can't even see your own cards.
Exactly. So that's probably not a good thing to do, or at least that, has a small chance of working. But there's another part of the game. So instead of playing a card on your turn, there are actually 8 information tokens. And you can use up one of these information tokens to give somebody else information about their cards. So the way you do that is you get rid of one of your tokens, and then you pick one other player, and you point to all of the cards that match a color or number. So you can pick either a color or number, and which color or number you want to pick, and you tell them all the cards that match. So you might say, okay, I'm going to choose player 1, and I'm going to say, that card is red. Right? Now notice, I'm also saying, by the way, I'm implying all the other cards are not red, because I have to identify all of them I can't pick and choose. Okay, so but I could also do a number, so I could point to another player and say that card is a 2. Right? Or I could go back to the first player and say these cards are 2s. But I wouldn't be able to say, like, the green, I wouldn't be able to point to the green one and say that one's a 2 without having pointed to the other one. So I identify all the cards that match a color or number, right? And so similarly, I could say these cards are green.
Are there 2 green ones? Yeah.
Yeah, so in fact there are 3 ones of every color. There's 2 of every other card, but the 5s, and there's 1 of those. Okay. So that's how you give information, but you only have 8 of these tokens, right? And so at some point you're going to be giving out information, and then all the tokens are gone. Oh no! And so, but there's one more thing you can do. Then you can take one of your cards, and you can say, I'm going to get rid of this card. I'm not playing it. I'm going to throw it out of the game. Okay, so that card is now gone forever, but because of that, you get an information token for having discarded it. That you now, someone else on your team, because we're all sharing those info tokens, could potentially use, or you could later use, to give information to someone else. Okay? We good with the rules? Every time you play a card or discard a card, you will simply draw a new card to replace that, so you always have 4 cards. And of course, when you do that, you won't know what it is. Okay, so remember the goal. The goal, right, is to just pass information around so you can identify all the cards, so everyone can play all the cards, so you can get the 5s everywhere, and you declare victory, and the world's awesome. All right, this is the game. That is the game. When I said, can a game demonstrate theory of mind? So why do I think it does? So let's like think about the game. Here's like the beginning of a game. I can deal all the cards out. And now, I don't know, how might the game play? So let me just give an example. Like maybe the first player, that little star up there, is meant to say whose turn it is. And so maybe the first player says, these 3 cards are ones. Right? Pretty reasonable thing to do.
Yeah.
Now we've used up an info token, right? And now it's the next player's turn. Obviously, 1s are playable, so maybe they'll take one of those cards, flip it over. I mean, as far as they're concerned, they have no idea what this card is, right? They can't see their cards. They're just going to take it, flip it over, and go, oh, it's the yellow one. I didn't know. I just knew it was 1. Okay, so then they draw a card to replace that. What's that?
You put it in the wrong place.
How do you know I put it in the wrong place? It's actually in... Okay. All right.
Yeah, can you shuffle your cards and put them in any order?
Oh gosh.
So that maybe you could, as long as the rules are you're not allowed to communicate through any mechanism apart from that. So you couldn't shuffle your cards in an attempt to communicate something that you know or intend. Okay, so by the way, I'm going to assume, by the way, that when you draw cards and everywhere in my examples, which Anna was reacting to, which is different than maybe, I should have done it the other way, but the cards on the right are the ones I'm drawing into. So the cards that are on the left have been in my hand longer. The ones on the right are where things will get drawn into.
How is communication defined exactly?
It was exactly that. I can tell you these 2 cards are blue.
But you said also something else. You said that by shuffling, you cannot communicate. So that's not saying...
I'm just saying that, maybe by the fact that I'm sitting here shuffling, you could be like, oh, you're bored, and that means that, like, maybe I could try to interpret something from that.
That's right, so that's what I'm asking. So what are sort of the legal rules there, right?
I believe the legal rule is you can't communicate other than...
Yeah. I mean, the fact is it's very, very hard not to if you play this game live, but that's...
Well, that's the beat.
But maybe if we had, machines in between, it would be easier to make sure that the communication was limited by just what you could say. Okay. All right, so we played that one, and now the third person's going to go, and now the third person looks around and maybe says, ooh, I skipped them. I actually have to put one of these in. Sorry. These are 1s. Okay. Play 1. Okay. Third player goes, and maybe the third player says, that card is yellow. Right, so that's seemingly informative, and now it's my turn. What do I do? If you actually played the game Hanabi, keep your mouth shut. If you haven't played the game Hanabi, what do you think we should do?
Tell them those are 2s?
Yeah, okay, so one option is I could say, those 2 cards are 2s, and now that player knows that that is in fact the yellow 2, right, and looks on the board and knows it's the yellow 1, and they can play the yellow 2. Okay, that's a possibility. Anyone want to suggest something else? Yeah.
Tell the middle one that that one is yellow.
Right, so there's another question going on. What is player 2 going to do if we number them 1, 2, 3? What is player 2 going to do after player 1 goes?
He'll pick on the 4 then.
No.
You could
If you tell him that that's a yellow card.
But he would know that the one is
He
yellow.
would at least
so
know
he
it's
would
a
play.
yellow one, and the other one then is not a yellow one.
Yeah.
So we would know that the other one is in fact a playable card right now. And we might want to do that because, I mean, which card, like, what is player 2 going to do if we don't do that? Might they play the yellow one? Maybe. What else? Is there any others? Maybe that's it? Does anyone else have any other suggestions?
Well, if we do tell him that that's a 1, or that that's yellow and you should play the 1, then what's the third player going to do? He's
Well, we
gonna-
still have lots of info tokens, so maybe they just provide information to somebody else.
Well, then I would be tempted to tell the third player about his yellow 3.
Yeah, that's interesting. How would you do it?
I think I might tell him that that's a 3.
Okay. Okay, I tell them it's a 3. What do we think player 1's going to do after that?
He'll play the 2.
Probably strike out,
How does he know?
would be my guess.
He knows the 2 is yellow.
But he doesn't know it's a 2.
Yeah, but he might guess that
Because I just did what?
you just told him that it was a 2.
Well, that's what that player did.
Yeah.
So another question is,
I can tell him where the 3 was, it sort of sets it all up.
it sets it all up. And so now it says, why would, this player 1 needs to think through, why would player 4 call out that 3 if I don't have the yellow 2
Yeah.
being told to play? Right? So you have to ask the question, why, in fact, maybe just on the very virtue of alone, when player 4 said that card is yellow, why would they have said if it was, suppose it was a yellow 3, does that make any sense to call it yellow? Like, I mean, there's a number of other moves you could have made, right? Player 4 just talked about those 1s and tried to get the white 1 play, but didn't, chose to say that that card was yellow. So the fact that they didn't say something and said something else means they're already intending something. And that player 1 needs to think about that intent, and from that intent alone, not the information, can now play the yellow 2 without me even saying it. And with Rich's idea of me calling that card yellow or calling it or a 3, increases that even more. Right now it's even much more obvious that there's intent going on, and that in fact this little information I have, this card is yellow, is enough for me to know I can play it. Does that make sense? Okay. What do I want to do with my slides? Okay. Let me see. I actually have to. Okay. So maybe one way you could get here. Maybe one way you could do this is you could just like make up a bunch of rules. There's papers. You can actually already find papers. People have written rules to play a hobby. They look like this. They look like, well, if I have a playable card in my hand, it's a little bit unclear what that means because, like, do I have to know it's playable? Like, I know it's yellow and I know it's a 2 and there's a yellow 1 on the board? Or is it enough that someone just called it out to me? That's still a question mark, but if I have a playable card in my hand, maybe I should play it. If I have a known discardable card in my hand, maybe I should discard it to give us more information. If I have an information token, maybe I should try to identify an unidentified card that's playable in another player's hand. And maybe if none of those things are true, I'll just discard the card that's been in my hand the longest, maybe? Like, if I had to discard a card, I probably shouldn't do it at random. Like, I might have just drawn a card, and no one's gotten a chance to tell me about it. Right? So I probably don't want to discard that one. So by virtue of that, maybe I should just discard my rules. Okay, so we could try to set up some rules. Maybe, I mean, I don't want to get into a debate of, do those rules encode theory of mind? Like, that's philosophically, I don't think, useful to go to. But a different question is, where would those rules come from? Right? Could those rules do what we wanted to? Let me show you a more advanced example of thinking, how you would think through this game. This isn't meant to be in the middle of a round. There has been past communication, but it won't matter for what I want to set up, but there has been cards played already. Okay, so player 1 has been told already that that card was, say, white, and so knew that it could play it, so it plays it, gets a new card. And now player 2 knows, now we're out of information, by the way, so player 2 did that thing where it needed to discard a card because it didn't have a playable card that it knew of. So it needs to discard a card, and so it chose to discard the card that's been in its hand the longest. Right? But that gives us an information token back, and he draws a card. And then player 3, now she's going to give some, she's going to play a card that was previously told about. And so now it comes around to me, and I have some information. I have one info token to give, but I actually know nothing about my hand, so I should probably say something. And so there's a number of things that I could say. I could say, like, maybe those 2 cards are 2s. Which card do you think that the first player is going to play?
The one that's been
The newest one?
Maybe the newest one? Because I had more ample time to tell them about the other one, and I didn't. Because I couldn't, because it wasn't a playable card. Right? So if I had to, now of course I probably wouldn't, I don't have to say it that way. I could have just called that as green and achieved the same effect. But I just wanted to notice that that I could have called those as 2s, and the other person can reason out which one is the likely one I meant. And so if I didn't mean that one, I better not have done it that way, because that's what they're going to reason out as the likely one I meant. Okay, but let me actually suggest that, yep, I could call it green. There's a whole other thing I could do.
Yeah.
What if I called that card green? What's about to happen if nobody else does anything, if player 1 and player 2 don't otherwise say anything? Like they just discard something. What will this person do? They're going to play that card. We just said there'd be no reason for me to point out that card as green if it was the green 3. Right? No reason to do that. But that is in fact what I just did. But player 4 doesn't know that. But who does know that? Player 1 knows that. Player 1 knows that I just did something stupid. There's 2 options they have here. They could think that I'm stupid. Not a bad option. Or they could think I wasn't. And if, by the way, if they think I'm stupid, the obvious thing to do is go tell that person, oh, by the way, that's a 3. And just don't play it, because it's not the card you think it is. If they think I'm smart, they could do something different. They could reason through, well, player 2 can't do anything about it. Right? Player 2 doesn't have a card that makes this work. I'm holding the green 2. Which card is it?
the one you just got.
The one I just got. Right?
Why?
Because if it was in my hand longer, I would have already told you about it. So if you had to guess, which I'm forcing you to guess, you have to guess your newest one. It's the most likely one. And now I know that's how you're going to guess, because that's how you'd have to guess. So I'm never going to do this when it's in the other position, because I'm going to put you in a position where you can't guess. So you're going to guess your newest card you just drew. I'm going to call that green. You're going to play the green too, even though I didn't even talk to you, and you didn't even learn a thing about your hand you didn't already know. Okay, how are we going to do that in a bunch of rules? Right, we're not going to. And a different question is, how, even if we could, how would we learn those rules? Where would they come from? Who would invent them? Because there's a problem. Let me come back to just this first example that I gave. This was the beginning of the game. And just to remind you what happened was first player called those as ones. The first player clearly knew that that card was playable and played it. Now this person calls this card as yellow. Let me think for a minute. It comes to my turn. What does player one know about their cards at this point, technically? Like, they just know that that card is yellow. Right? That player right there who has the yellow 2 just knows the card is yellow. The probability, like if all things being equal, if they were just told, like randomly, that that card was yellow, there was no other agent that had intent of getting them to do something about it, then when that person thinks about, oh, I just now know this card is yellow, the probability that that is a playable card just went down. Because all the other colors, ones are playable. And there's more ones in the deck than there are twos. So the fact that you just told me that it's yellow, in fact, reduced the probability that the card was playable over the other cards in my hand. So if I were to make a choice right now, if I were to have to play a random card from my hand, I'd be more likely to want to play one of my first 3 cards. Going exactly the opposite of what you'd expect. So let's imagine we're going to learn to play the game. We're just independently, like, adapting our policy. There's just an RL agent sitting there. The RL agent, everyone's just going to start off like doing random stuff. If you just do random stuff, you're just going to call out random colors. And if you just call out random colors, then you're going to make the wrong choice because you're actually going to believe that when they call my card being yellow, I shouldn't play it. That means they're going to not want to call your card yellow because you're going to do the wrong thing. You're never going to learn this at all. So I think I'm out of time, or do I have a few minutes left? I'm totally out of time. So I'm just going to end with the statement, the maybe contentious statement that there's no way that you could possibly, with something like gradient descent or bootstrapping or RL, that's not what I mean. There's no way with Sarsa independently adapting behavior that you would be able to learn something that would be able to play this game. And I'm out of time.
Yeah. Did we run out of slides or time first?
I only have a few more slides. It really was just going to end abruptly. Yeah.
I think it would depend upon who you were playing with.
Yes.
Ah,
So if you were playing with a bunch of people who already played, then maybe you could learn to play with them.
but if you're playing against
But if you were playing with a bunch of people who were all learning to play, it seems like we're missing something. One could say that we're missing communication, but I think if you just get humans that you have no more communication than just playing through the game, they would actually learn to play this game. They would actually learn to play. Let me rephrase that. They would learn to play this game, and to create a straw man, Sarsa Lambda would. It's not that I don't think RL can do this. RL totally can do this. The punchline that I didn't get to say is I think you actually need to reason, like the states that you have to reason about, the things you're thinking about, is the beliefs and intentions of who's playing, and you take actions to manipulate them, just like you would manipulate states. Yeah.
So just to follow up on that, so before the talk you told me that poker is kind of at the edge of the agent having to think about theory of mind, chess is not, and business clearly is. So mathematically, would that boil down to saying that here you have to include the actions of thinking about other state of mind, otherwise you have no chance of learning?
I don't know that my answer can be defended mathematically, or any sort of formal way. I think right now I have an intuition that says that chess does not really require a theory of mind to play it. I think poker is closer, two-player poker is closer to that. This seems to be a whole other beast that I don't know how to.
So it'd be interesting to think a little bit how it would.
Yeah, well, it'd be interesting to formalize why I feel that way, and I don't have a great answer. Yeah.
So suppose you never should train a computer to play this, like all the players were computers, and they played it really well, but they were really bad at playing with humans. Would that mean we discovered a new kind of mind, or more generally, is there like one theory of mind, or does it?
I'm just not going to answer that question, but I'll say something that doesn't answer the question to pretend like I just did. Oh, I wasn't supposed to say that out loud. I think there's two. Like, I'm kind of proposing that we should. That would be useful for AI to think about this. Like, this is a real proposal, and I think there's kind of two phases to it. I think it would be interesting to build computers that could learn to play this game with other computers. So the problem is, like, how should I play that? Like, if there were other agents reasoning the same way I was, that it would play well. And I suspect that problem is going to be easier than phase 2. And phase 2 is going to be, how would I do this when now I need to play with other people? And maybe I get to start, like, interacting with them a little bit, understanding what their thought process is, and then I need to adapt to it and learn from it and manipulate their beliefs and intentions. So I don't really think I answered your question, but other than to say that, yeah, there definitely is going to be multiple ways to play it. And you're right, the computers might derive one that no humans could possibly play with, right? Because their thinking skills cannot reason through the many layers of depth that requires of recursive reasoning.
And it's like there's multiple fixed points to the strategy.
Yeah, like from a mathematical sense, we know that's going to be true. So like we're kind of stuck with that. But I think that means that there's two sort of, they're almost independent, but I would almost do them in the order of, let's see if we can get a machine to learn to play this when it's playing with other machines, that it doesn't have to worry about them reasoning, incorrectly or in a funny way. And then how do we do this if we wanted to play with other humans? In the very back.
I'd be interested to hear what your intuition says about levels of theory of mind that might be involved in this game or other games, and whether or not
so by levels, you mean...
The thinking, so level 1 might be my thinking about another
Yeah.
agent's thinking.
So we can think about it beliefs, like I know, like I believe this, but then, is this what you mean? But then do I believe that the other person believes this?
Believes this about
Yeah.
perhaps another player who might believe about how many bounces.
Yeah, and I think, well, I gave one example of one which is at least now goes too deep, right? When I was now saying I'm going to inform you, I'm going to inform one player to actually pass information to another. The only way I can do that manipulation is to really think about what you believe about the other player's cards and what you believe I know about them, and then to actually manipulate it by saying something that surprised you. I think you can keep going down that route. I don't know. I've played a fair bit of this game, and I think that there's at least one more level in some of the strategies that we employ that humans will at least go to one more level beyond that one example. But I can't for certain say that it keeps going past that. Humans seem to struggle to get past that. Yeah?
When you're talking about looking at building a bot that can play other bots, are you thinking of the random thing, which seems like it would just uncover the underlying probabilities, or the rule-based thing where, you know, we had 3 rows first, which doesn't cover everything but would be a playable?
I think it's still interesting, but I could be wrong. It could be that there's some brute force trivial solution that makes me wrong about this. But I think it would be interesting to devise a strategy that, when placed in every seat, does well. So now it's going to know how the other agents reason, because it reasons just like us it did.
Yeah.
This isn't like this isn't a huge advantage, because it still doesn't know anything. It still doesn't know anything it can't see. It just now can rely on that they will reason the same way I reason. And this is why such a strategy might adopt something that no human could play with, because it's going to reason, in no understandable way.
And go as deep as it needs to.
And go as deep as it needs to. Now, I do think that there is a question: will it just be crazy? Will it just be insane? Like, will it just devise strategies that don't make any sense? Like, I'm going to call this card as blue, and then some other player plays their 3rd card from the left, and it's a yellow too. And no one can decipher what any of that could mean. It's possible that could be a strategy. I actually kind of think it won't be, because of this notion that there really is meaning in what I say. Right? If what I said had no meaning at all, like if it doesn't, like if I'm not constrained by information, if I could just say, words, then I think, yeah, the bots are going to use it like they're going to do communication. They're just going to do a coding theory answer, and they're just going to figure out how to encode as many bits as they can and convey that bits to the channel that they have. But these bits have meaning in this game, and I think that makes it special. I would actually argue, if I just throw out some crazy idea, that when we learn to communicate, we do it, our bits are special too. Our bits are not free communication. We are speaking into the world, or we're moving things in the world, or we're hitting somebody. We're physically having an effect on the world, and maybe that's how language develops. And I think it's important that our actions have physical effect and are communicative, and maybe we shouldn't be thinking about purely communicative actions, because maybe you can never learn. But that was just a random one-off thought. Yeah?
Do you think you'd have to manually truncate how many levels deep a computer program doing this looks?
If you want to try to make it play with humans, you mean?
Yeah, like have it say like, okay, I'm going to think about this player's belief and this player's belief about another player's belief, but then that player I'm just going to assume is going to make some simple rationalization that doesn't require going any further.
So there is, you can find papers with that when the reasoning is simple. You can find people who've studied, like, can I learn at what level people are reasoning on, and then, and you could probably find that out rather quickly, right? Like, it doesn't take too much effort to realize, wait, they made a wrong move here. Can I actually back off? Like, can I figure out from a move that I didn't expect, what does that say about where their reasoning is? And so other people have done that in other domains, but I think the reasoning steps in those domains tend to be far easier than is required. But yeah, I think you're right. You would need to learn at what's the right level to reason.
You're making somewhat of a bold claim, but I guess it's only bold based on what the implications are.
Okay.
So a question for me is always, is it going to be built in, or is it something you're going to try to discover or learn? And so, for example, do you want the formalism to have this information, that the agents are going to have this theory of mind, or do you want it to have a simpler formalism and discover it as a learned thing?
What I would propose would be, and I guess I don't know what you mean. Do you mean by recognizing that beliefs and intentions of other agents are something, like we're going to build in that that's something to reason about? then I would argue that I think both questions are interesting. As a starting point, I would say let's build it in and see if we can still learn. Because I think there's still a hard learning problem, even when you realize my actions manipulate things. I think that's still a hard problem. But you're absolutely right. It would be super cool to ask the question, how could theory of mind arise, as opposed to whether you need it. And the first question is asking whether you need it, and the second one's asking, could we just figure this out from interacting to realize that there are other minds and they have desires, intentions, and beliefs and all that stuff. So I think both questions are valid. I think definitely one's harder than the others, so I would do the easier one first. But maybe that's the wrong way to do it.
If people wanted to try playing Hanabi, do they have a venue where they can do that?
It's $8 at the games.
Yeah. You know what I mean.
Yeah, I have an online server that's currently running.
Really?